Oh, wow. Hey, pura vida, mi gente. Pure life, my people. That's what I'm saying all the time. In case you guys don't know, I appreciate you guys tuning in once again. Much love and respect to all of you. We're going to get back into this book we've been reading just so I can get through it. And again, we're just creating content so we can use this as sources in future videos, little clips of them. So I want to read out, most of the books and full chapters so we can have that in our collections here. You can come back to it anytime you want. But this is a pretty interesting book we've been reading. We just got to dodge the hijack here and there with their, colorizations and stuff, and seeing everything in reverse because we already know America's the true old world, right? But in general, pretty good topics they have that corroborate showing America is the true old world. The book again is called Mysteries of Ancient America, Uncovering the Forbidden by Fritz Zimmerman. And we're going to pick up where we left last time. Over here in the bottom is the chapter we're going to get into. It's called The Eight Deities of the Sioux Indians in the Hopewell Earthworks. So we're going to read various chapters, different topics. Again, I hope you guys enjoy it. And thank you for being here. And it says Wakantanka. Wakantanka, just like Wakanda, Wakantanka, the great spirit that created everything. He governs all, it says. And there's an image of a mound complex, very famous one showing the square and the circle. Just like in ancient Egypt, we've shown a lot of references to this and aligned to the celestial stars and planets and the winter and summer and fall equinox and solstices. It says here the number 8 is prevalent in the Ohio Hopewell earthwork. The octagon at Newark was constructed to venerate these gods, or again, the octagon here. And then we have this. Remember, this is from a book sponsored by the Smithsonian, Squire and Davis. They had a lot of great surveys done of a lot of mounds and mound walls, dirt embankments that they have today. Like this one, for example, you could only see a little bit. Parts of it have already been destroyed. But as you guys can see, this almost looks like a Hebrew symbol. There's many people talking about this on YouTube, this actual mound here. This is a large structure. This is a very large earth structure. This is a sky view of it. Okay. And the center column represents the Great Spirit, it says, Wakantanka. He symbolized here as the tree of life. The 4 earthen columns on each side represent the 8 lesser deities. We, the most powerful sun god. Shakan, the sky god. Maka, the earth mother. Inyan, rock and immovable things. Hanwi, goddess of the moon. Wife of We, Tate, god of the winds. Whoopi, the fallen star or meteor. Wakingyang, thunderbird. All right, there you go. This is what they're describing this like, right here. It also looks like a lamp and the candles. All right. And then we got another dry again here. We, the sun god. And then we're going to keep going, but I just want you guys to look at it before I go to the next page. All right. You see the size of these, right? 250 feet. These circled earth embankments, mounds. All right. So we, the sun god, was represented by circular earthworks or henges. Henges, right? Earth henges. These are large. Again, 250 feet. And then we got this diagram that says Maka, the Earth Mother. As you guys can see, the area, 27 acres. That's big. 27 acres and then a small stone circle. We got little mounds here and there, but this is earth embankments, henges, large. This is a bird's eye view of it. Okay. Maka, the Earth Mother, was represented by the square. The largest circle might represent Shakan, the sky god. Right here we have figure 14, stone wall of a prehistoric fortification. Flint Ridge, Licking County, Ohio. The occurrence of easily accessible stone in many sections of the mound area encouraged its use in structural activities. Stone walls on a hill top ceremonial works were dedicated to Inyan. Tate was the god of the four winds, it says. Okay, just to go back. We have another one here. It says Whoopi, the fallen star or meteor. Huh. Dragon? A dragon is a meteor, right? Remember the definition of dragon in the 1828 Webster's English Dictionary, Noah Webster's Dictionary. All right, go look it up if you don't know. All right, so Whoopi, the fallen star or meteor. And then we got this image right here for another hench or embankment, Earth, ancient works on Stockbridge lots, east side of Lake Winnebago. Okay. And then on the corner, it says here the spread eagle, Utica or Utica. Wakingyang, Thunderbird at Lake Winnebago, the Thunderbird at Lake Winnebago. All right. And that was it for that chapter. You know, some of these chapters are pretty quick, right? That's why we're going to do a lot of different chapters. They're just kind of showing you. And then it says here on the next chapter, the next topic, Egyptian Korean bead discovered in Erie County, Pennsylvania. So-called Egyptian, huh? Remember, ancient Egypt was right here, guys, in America, in ancient America, the real ancient Egypt. When we talk about Tamari, the beloved land, Tamari. So they supposedly found Egyptian style Korean bead or Chorean bead, Korean, discovered in Erie County, Pennsylvania. The most singular find was once made by Mr. Francis Carnahan while plowing a field in Harbor Creek Township in 1825. It was a strange-looking bead, which he cleaned and preserved, and which later fell into the hands of L.G. Olmsted, LLD, who was an archaeologist as well as a traveler of note. He had no hesitation in pronouncing it one of the celebrated Korean beads, formerly used in the religious ceremonies in ancient Egypt. He kept it for a long time as one of his most priceless treasures. He was formerly from Erie County, but at that time resided at Fort Edward, New York. It is said that there are only about 30 of those famous beads in existence, and others are deposited in the great museums of the world. We learned that this one ultimately found its way into the Erie Public Museum, where it is treasured above price. You guys hear that? Only supposed to be 30 of these beads all over the world in different museums. Where was the real origin of a lot of these beads? Could a lot of them have been found here in the Americas and then brought over to these museums, and then they told people, well, we found this in over there in Egypt today, right? What they're calling Egypt today. They did that with a lot of stuff. Just, just a thought there, right? But now this bead, if you're interested, suppose it's in the Erie Public Museum. Go check it out if you're around there. And it says here, Pennsylvania's Pentagram, Mound, and Earthwork. Wow. Did you guys know that? There's a Pentagram, Mound, and Earthwork in Pennsylvania. The neighborhood of Brownsville or Redstone in Pennsylvania abounds with monuments of antiquity, a fortified camp of very complete and curious kind, on the ramparts of which is timber of 5 feet in diameter, stands near the town of Brownsville. This camp contains 13 acres enclosed in a circle, the elevation of which is 7 feet above the adjoining ground. This was a Herculean work. Within the circle, a pentagram is accurately described, having its sides 4 feet high and its angles uniformly 3 feet from the outside of the circle, thus leaving an unbroken communication all around. A pentagram is a figure having 5 angles or sides. Each side of the pentagram has a postern or small gateway, opening into a passage between it and the circle, but the circle itself has only one grand gateway outward. Exactly in the center stands a mound 30 feet high, supposed to have been a place of lookout. At a small distance from this place was found a stone measuring 8 feet by 5, on which was accurately engraved a representation of the whole work, with the mound in the center, whereon was the likeness of a human head, which signified that the chief who presided there lay buried beneath it. The engraving on the stone is evidence of the knowledge of stone cutting, as it was executed with a considerable degree of accuracy. On comparing the description of this circular monument with a description of the works of similar character found in Denmark, Sweden, and Ireland, listen, just like the ones they found over there, the conclusion is drawn that at some era of time, the authors of this kind of monumental works in either of the countries have been the same. All right? He just said it. Whoever built this one in Pennsylvania had to have made the ones in Denmark and Ireland. Remember what we've been learning. If anybody was to cross the Atlantic first, it would have been an American Indian. We've been going over so much research about the ancient navigations of ancient Americans all over the world, especially over to, North Europe, the British Isles, following the favorable winds and the currents, the ocean streams that would bring you over there. It's 4 times harder to come back that way. That's why we know that if anything, it was first here in America, and then we brought that knowledge over there, and they built the exact same type of mounds over there. As he's saying, they had to have been done by the same people. All right. Move it on to the next topic. It says Roman coins discovered in burial mounds. Roman coins. And I got a future video. There's a lot of actual Roman coins found throughout the world, but there's a lot found in ancient America that they never told us about. So this is just one example, or a couple examples. It says Roman coins again discovered in burial mounds. Giant skeletons. Oh, we already know about that. And Roman coins found in Jackson, Ohio. Giant skeletons again. And this is Roman Emperor Scipio Africanus. Africa, huh? Africanus, a surname, a Roman surname, huh? Africanus. I told you Africa is a Roman Latin word. I told you guys that. The Holmes County Republic in March 16, 1859. Discovery of a mysterious vault. Jackson, Ohio, February 21st. Our village is full of wonder and excitement. Martin Maker, J.W. Hughes, and Washington Long, and digging a grave in the cemetery near this village about 10 o'clock this morning, came to a large flat stone about 4 feet below the surface, which stopped their further progress until they procured assistance and removed the stone from its resting place of ages. When it was found to have closed the entrance to its subterranean vault, all efforts thus far, 3 p.m., to enter it with a light have proved unsuccessful on account of the foul air with which it is filled. By means of a rake, human bone of gigantic size have been raised, and a small shard of silver, with coins attached to each end. The coins, though much defaced by time, have the appearance of those used among the Romans, so-called Romans in the days of Scipio Africanus. All right? Though there were evident traces of hieroglyphic devices, then cannot be deciphered. The men at the cemetery have, by means of burning straw, made light in the vault, and though none have the courage to enter further than the entrance, it has been discovered that there is immediately to the west of the opening a chamber of about 10 feet square, with steps dilapidated down its eastern side. 3 other chambers branch out of this, one to the north, one to the south, and the other to the west. We are all curious, of course, to know when and by whom these vaults were made and filled. Okay? So here we have, I guess, an illustration of what they found in, guys. Look at this. That like a unicorn, or the horse Pegasus, I believe it's called, the horse with the wings. It says Roman coin discovered within an Illinois burial mound. Now they're calling this Roman. That's what they're tagging it, because it looks like things they are calling Roman on the other side of the world. This is being found in Illinois, right? Illinois, where Little Egypt is as well. So many mounds, right? Roman coin, huh? And look at the drawing again, guys. Hopefully you can see it. I can't zoom in on this Kindle version of book we got, but it literally looks like a horse with wings. All right. And there's an article here, says the Washington Herald, March 14th, 1913. Find Roman coin, an Indian mound in Hancock County, Illinois. So we got another one. Chicago, March 13th, an old coin discovered in an Illinois Indian mound in Hancock County and examined by Dr. Alfred Emerson of the Chicago Art Institute, a famous numismatist, was declared to be either an old Greek or Roman coin. Dr. Emerson said he had never seen one like it, but that he was certain it was coined in Rome or Greece during the period between 250 BC and 250 AD. So think about that. He just said he's never seen a coin like this ever before, but he thinks it was done in Rome or Greece. Well, yeah, this is the true old world. You mean Rome and Greece here, huh? But he's never seen anything like this. So you mean this is unique? This is unique, right? Unique to the Americas. Yeah, we had coins here, guys. The discovery of the coin has awakened scientific interest here in the Indian mounds. It is believed that they may furnish proof that they're saying white man, they mean European men were on the American continent 2,000 years ago. Scientists today asserted 2,000 years ago, huh? But you must be seeing it in reverse. This is the true old world. Yeah, this is the true old world. They just conjecturing that because they found a coin that looks to be Roman, yet they never seen this type of coin. You see all the conjectures they add, right? All the narratives they add to this to try to explain why it's here. It says here, Roman coin discovered in a Texas burial mound. So we got more coins, right? And then we've got an image here of Dr. Jeremiah Epstein. Whoa, Epstein's ancestor, huh? Whoa, University of Texas professor of anthropology. Appears at Roman coin minted in London in 313 and 314 AD. The question in Epstein's mind is how this coin turned up in an Indian mound near Round Rock, Texas. So, how did he determine that was minted in London? What is he, using to determine that if he found it here? And an Indian mound in Texas, guys. Maybe because of the style, he said, oh, this is the type of stuff we found in London when the Romans had a colony there. But again, that was most likely from America and unique and original to America. The Daily Herald, Chicago, Illinois, December 24th, 1976. Austin, Texas, UPI. The discovery of a dime-sized piece of metal in an Indian mound is causing some consternation among anthropologists. The coin minted in London in 313-314 AD is found so frequently in Europe, it is not worth faking, said Dr. John Nutcrow, assistant professor of classics at the university. It is inscribed on one side with the head of a young emperor wearing the laurel crown, and the other side with the sun. It was worth a nickel in its time, and the only about $10 today. But Epstein said, for my purposes, it's invaluable. All right, so that was the little report on that. They're again conjecturing that it came from London. A pictorial description of Ohio, 1849. A Roman coin of the reign of Domitian, if we remember rightly, was found some years ago in a cave in Tennessee. And upon this fact, men more credulous than wise built a theory which had for its basis the assumption that this country had been trodden by the foot of a bona fide Roman of ancient stamp. All right? Assumption, they even admit they're guessing. Again, this is the true old world. When we talk about so-called Romans or Roman coins, most likely all that was happening here, guys, in real time. Remember, what did we find in Arizona? The Tucson crosses, right? Ancient Rhoda, the merchants of Rhoda. We just read a whole book on we're still reading that book actually, right? So why say that it came from somewhere else just because of the style of coin they're finding, what it looks like? And also remember what the Iroquois are called. They were called the Romans of the West. I mean, we got videos on all this, right? We got videos on all this. Now we move on to the next topic. It says here, mound builders and mastodons, all right? This is a pretty good one because I think I know. I haven't read this book, guys. This is the first time I read this with you, but I think I know what they're going to talk about. You know, there's a lot of depictions of elephants, not just mastodons. They don't necessarily have to be woolly or hairy. A lot of these elephants look just like the ones in Africa or India. but they always like to try to make them woolly, hairy, so they cannot, so they can be distinguished or look different than the ones in Africa. So we can think we didn't have those animals here, but we did. We have so many different types of elephants in the Americas, and also the ancestors of the elephants. The bones are being found all over the Americas. We know mammals came out of here. Many animals came out of America, right? So it's just an image there of probably something they have in a museum. So did the mastodon and mammoth survive much later than scientists have claimed? Yes. And see how they leave out elephants? They just say mastodons and mammoths, right? They leave out the word elephants. Effigy pipes and mounds depicting these extinct pachyderms are evidence that they survived much later in history than we have been led to believe. Several alternative researchers have theorized that these mighty animals have even been used as beasts of burden and utilized in the construction of some of the great earthworks in Ohio. Right, you guys hear that? Like the massive Newark Henge with its deep ditches. Right, and here's an image of it with snow on it. But listen to what they're saying, and we know, hey, a lot of the what do they call what you consider history in the mound building eras. They're saying they probably had elephants, and elephants even helping them construct these things, right? Why not? It has been theorized that the massive interior ditches of the Newark Henge were not dug out with clamshells, but aided by mastodons utilized as beasts of burden. Native American legends corroborate these theories, so the Indians are saying that. Choctaw Indians' legend of the Mammoth, Mississippi as a province, territory, and state by J.F.H. Claiborne, 1880, all right? Hey, we got to get that source. They're letting you know the Choctaw were telling them, hey, man, we used elephants. Yeah, our ancestors used elephants to help us build mounds, okay? The Choctaws preserve a dim tradition that after crossing the Mississippi, they met a race of men whom they called the Nahunlo, tall in stature and of fair complexion. I want to see where it says fair complexion. See, they add this stuff, guys. They want us to believe that, who had emigrated from the sunrise. They had once been a mighty people, but were then few in number and soon disappeared after the incoming of the Choctaws. This race of men was, according to tradition, tillers of the soil and peaceable. There had likewise been a race of cannibals who feasted on the bodies of their enemies. They too were giants and utilized the mammoth as their burden bearers. They kept them closely herded, and as they devoured everything and broke down the forest, this was the origin of prairies. All right? We continue. It says here Osage, Indian legend of the mammoth. The Lenape Stone, 1885. A remarkable story alleged in support of the coexistence of the Indian and the mammoth's great contemporary, the mastodon. Regarded by most scientists with distrust, though defended by some, was that of Dr. Albert Koch, collector of curiosities, who in 1839 disinterred the skeleton of a mastodon in a clay bed near the Burbois River, Gascoigne County, Missouri. Associated with the bones, Koch claimed to have discovered, or Koch, in the presence of a number of witnesses, a layer of wood ashes, numerous fragments of rock, some arrowheads, a stone spear point, and several stone axes. Evidence, and he claimed, that the huge animal had met its untimely end at the hands of savages, who, armed with rude weapons of stone and boulders, brought from the bed of the neighboring river, had attacked it, while helplessly mired in the soft clay, and finally effected its destruction by fire. Koch also published with his statement, and in connection with another skeleton, that of the Mastodon giganteus, discovered by him in Benton County, Missouri, a tradition of the Osage Indians, and whose former territory the bones were found, and which he says led him to the discovery. It states, says Koch, that there was a time when the Indians paddled their canoes over the now extensive prairies of Missouri and encamped or hunted on the bluffs. That at a certain period many large and monstrous animals came from the eastward along and up the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, upon which the animals that had previously occupied the country became very angry, and at last so enraged and infuriated by reason of these intrusions that the red man durst not venture out to hunt any more, and was consequently reduced to great distress. At this time, a large number of these huge monsters assembled here, when a terrible battle ensued, in which many on both sides were killed, and the remnants resumed their march toward the setting sun. Near the bluffs, which are at present known by the name of the Rocky Ridge, one of the greatest of these battles was fought. Immediately after the battle, the Indians gathered together many of the slaughtered animals and offered them up on the spot as burnt sacrifice to the Great Spirit. You guys hear that? Offering, offering to the Great Spirit, right? It's like we read about the similarities of some of the Indians to the ancient Israelites. The remainder were buried by the Great Spirit himself in the Pomme de Terre River, which from this time took the name of the Big Bone River, as well as the Osage, of which the Pomme de Terre is a branch. From this time, the Indians brought their yearly sacrifice to this place and offered it up to the Great Spirit as a thank offering for their great deliverance. And more latterly, they have offered their sacrifice on the table, rock above mentioned. A curious rock near the spot on the discovery, or of the discovery, which was held in great veneration and considered holy ground. All right, check this out, guys. This is the Lenape stone. If you guys ever heard of it, and look what it has. It has some kind of inscriptions on it, and it shows an elephant. You see, it shows an elephant. I wonder. I'm not sure if I've seen this one. I think I have. I think I have it in my elephant video, if I remember correctly. But if I don't, here it is. There you go, the Lenape stone. Amazing, right? Pretty cool. They have a elephant on it, right? And some other inscriptions. Check it out. In the carving, we have the most interesting mammoth picture in existence. Not a mere drawing of the animal itself, but a picture of primitive life, in which the mammoth takes a conspicuous part in the actions and thoughts of man. A carving made with a bone or flint instrument upon a tablet of slate at least 400 years ago. The hairy elephant drawn in unmistakable outline and attacked by human beings, or is being attacked. A battle scene which thrills our imagination, and the importance of which the ancient draughtsman magnifies by the introduction of the symbols of his religion, the sun, the moon, and stars, and the lightning alone, powerful to overthrow the great enemy. All right, so let's go back to it. And they're saying, yeah, it's being attacked by humans, I guess, supposedly. That battle scene, huh? So they were with humans, right? Continuing, says the Indian and the Mammoth, 1865. In the spring of 1872, 8 years after the discovery of the famous mammoth carving in the cave of La Maid, Ligny, or Lane, Perigord, France, Barnard Hansel, a young farmer, while plowing on his father's farm 4.5 miles east of Doylestown, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, saw, to use his own words, a queer stone lying on the surface of the ground and close to the edge of the new furrow. The plow had just missed turning it under. He stopped and picked it up. It was the larger piece of the fractured gorget stone. By wetting his thumb and rubbing it, he could see strange lines and carving representing an animal like an elephant. But without troubling his boyish head about it, or much about it, he carried it several days in his pocket and finally locked it up in his chest, where, along with his other relics, arrowheads, spear points, axes, and broken banner stones, thrown in from time to time as he found them on the farm, it remained until the spring of 1881, when he sold it to Mr. Henry Paxson, son of a well-known resident of the neighborhood. Then, a youth of 19, and with a fancy for collecting Indian antiquities, and whose possession it still remains, at the moment of the purchase no particular attention had been paid to the carvings, and the new owner was not certain that he had noticed the mammoth while at Hansel's house, or until a few hours later, when he had brought home his trophies and shown them to his father, who distinctly remembers calling his son's attention to the rude outline of an elephant upon the stone. But without doubt, the singular part of the story is the unexpected finding of the smaller piece of the fractured stone a few months later. After many ineffectual searches for it in the intervening years, it was picked up by Hansel while corn husking with his brother in the same field and at the same spot where 9 years before the first piece had been found. This luckily discovered fragment Hansel presented to Mr. Paxson. Several persons of the neighborhood had seen the stone at Mr. Paxson's house both before and after the discovery of the second piece, but it was not until both parts had been some months in his possession that any unusual interest was attached to it. Even Session, it still remains. It is unquestionably a picture of a combat between savages and the hairy mammoth, an encounter such as our imagination has not yet connected with the ancient forest of America, and drawn as well as an Indian who had seen the great monster could have drawn it. Most of the figures seem represented according to the common conventional method of the modern Indians, yet there is certainly a seeming picturesque relation between them of which we can find no example in the few ancient Indian pictographs which have been preserved to us. The combat we might imagine takes place on the confines of a forest, and if we may judge from the upward inclination of the foreground, on the right, at the base of a hillside, the monster, angry and with erect tail, approaches the forest in which, through the pine trunk, are seen the wigwams of an Indian village. In the sky overhead, and as if presiding over the event, are ranged the powers of heaven. Forked lightning flashes through the treetops, and from between a planet and the crescent moon, beyond which we seem to see a constellation, represented by a series of crossed lines and two stars. The sun's face looks down upon the scene. Four human forms confront the monster. The first holds in his right hand a bow, from which the arrow just discharged is sticking in the side of the enraged beast, and in his left, if it is not planted in the ground, a long lance. A second warrior with a headdress of feathers stands farther to the right, and still farther and near what may perhaps be called a rock. A third sits upon the ground, apparently smoking a pipe. A fourth figure is easily distinguishable, trampled under the forefeet of the mammoth. The strong effect upon the fancy of the rude carving as we gaze upon it would be hard indeed to resist. Its stern naivete and characteristic lack of aesthetic purposes bring upon the mind a haunting scene of the reality of the event it represents, and our sympathies seem genuinely awakened for the four human beings who have dared to confront the monster with their rude weapons of stone, yet whose destiny, like that of their huge antagonist, is overshadowed by the near presence of a supernatural power seen in the great phenomena of nature, which the artist has connected with the scene. Well, might the artist has connected with the scene? Well, might the appearance of the hairy mammoth have excited in the superstitious mind of the Indian hunter fancies more wild than those contained in the carving? Hardly more thrilling could have been the coming of the white man in ships, so-called white men. So again, we gotta dodge the hatch. At first, they've seen in reverse, and then they're trying to make everybody that's ancient and civilized so-called white, especially in this book. Or the sound of their cannon, then the sight of one of these ungainly monsters in the shadows of a primal or primeval forest, or the crash of his irresistible advance through the underbrush. That the mammoth had survived into the time of the Indian can hardly be doubted. Early travelers had frequently seen his bones at the Big Bone Licks in Kentucky, whither the huge animals had come, like the deer and buffalo or modern times, to lick the salt. The great bones often seemed hardly older than those of the modern animals with which they were mingled. And judging from their position along the modern buffalo trails through the forest, it seems that the latter animals had followed the ancient tracks of the mammoth to and from the licks. Continue on the next page. Not a few of these early travelers thought it worth their while to question the Indians about the huge bones and note down their answers. Jefferson, in his notes on Virginia, devotes several pages to the subject. He even believes the mammoth to be still in existence in his time in some remote part of the American continent. He tells the story of Mr. Stanley, who, taken prisoner by the Indians near the mouth of the Tennessee, relates that after being transferred through several tribes from one to another, he was at length carried over the mountains west of the Missouri to a river which runs westwardly, that these bones abounded there, and that the natives described to him the animal to which he belonged, as still existing in the northern parts of their country. Listen, from which description he judged it to be an elephant. So even when the Europeans suppose, uh, these so-called white, they call them, even when they came, they were hearing stories that, hey, these animals still exist. All right? Talking about elephants. Further, in support of his theory, he gives an Indian tradition of a great monster known as the Big Buffalo, and obtained, he says, from a Delaware chief by one of the governors of Virginia during the American Revolution. Nothing has seemed more interesting in a study of the carvings on the Lenape stone than the remarkable similarity between this tradition of the Lenni Lenape or the Delawares and the carvings on this relic discovered in the middle of their ancient territory. The chief, as the account runs, being asked as to the bones at the Big Bone Lakes in Kentucky, says that it was a tradition handed down from his fathers that in ancient times a herd of these tremendous animals came to Big Bone Lakes and began a universal destruction of the bear, deer, elks, buffaloes, and other animals which had been created for the use of the Indians. That the great man above, looking down and seeing this, was so enraged that he seized his lightning, descended on the earth, seated himself on a neighboring mountain, on a rock on which his seat and the print of his feet are still to be seen, and hurled his bolts among them, till the whole were slaughtered, except the big bull, who presenting his forehead to the shafts, shook them off as they fell, but missing one at length, it wounded him on the side, whereon springing around he bounded over the Ohio, over the Wabash, the Illinois, and finally over the Great Lakes, where he is still living till this day. All right? Till this day, they're saying. Huh. So it says here in Iowa, mammoth pipe. So we've shown this pipe for sure. Elephant pipe in Iowa. This is from the annual report of the Bureau of American Ethnology from 1883, same one we've read before. As regards likeness to the mastodon, the pipes before alluded to, copies of which are given in Barber's articles on mound pipes and American Naturalist for April 1882, are here presented, while not entirely above criticism, are much nearer what they have been supposed to be than the mounds just mentioned. Of the two, figure 29 is certainly the most natural in appearance, but if the pipes are intentional imitations of any animal, neither can be regarded as having been intended for any other than the mastodon or elephant, right? Yet, as pointed out by Barber and others, it is certainly surprising that, if intended for mastodons, no attempt was made to indicate the tusk, which with the trunk constitute the most marked external peculiarities of all the elephant kind. The tusks too, all right. So this one don't even have tusks, So what is it, right? It's like some of the elephants in Africa, right, in India, might be even a young one. The tugs too, as affording that most important product in primitive industries, ivory, would naturally be the one peculiarity of all others which the ancient artists would have relied upon to fix the identity of the animal. It is also remarkable that in neither of these pipes is the tail indicated, although a glance at the other sculptures would show that in the full length figures this member is invariably shown. In respect to these omissions, the pipes from Iowa are strikingly suggestive of the Elephant Mound of Wisconsin, with the peculiarities of which the sculptor, whether ancient or modern, might almost be supposed to have been acquainted. It certainly must be looked upon as a curious coincidence that carvings found at its point so remote from the Elephant Mound, and presumably the work of other hands, should so closely copy the imperfections of that mound. In considering the evidence afforded by these pipes of a knowledge of the mastodon on the part of the mound builders, it should be borne in mind that their authenticity as specimens of the mound builders' art has been called seriously in question. Possibly the fact that the same person was instrumental in bringing to light both the pipes has had largely to do with the suspicion, especially when it was remembered that although explorers have been remarkably active in the same region, it has fallen to the good fortune of no one else to find anything conveying the most distant suggestion of the mastodon, as the manner of discovery of such relics always form an important part of their history. The following account of the pipes, as communicated to Mr. Barber by Mr. W. H. Pratt, president of the Davenport Academy, American naturalist for April 1822, page 275, 276, is here subjoined. All right, so we're going to read that from 1882, and it says, the first elephant pipe, which we obtained a little more than a year ago, was found some 6 years before by an illiterate German farmer named Peter Meyer, while planting corn on a farm in the Mound region, Louisa County, Iowa. He did not care whether it was elephant or kangaroo. To him, it was a curious Indian stone, and nothing more, and he kept it and smoked it. He used it to smoke. Listen, in 1878, he removed to Kansas, and when he left, gave the pipe to his brother in law, a farm laborer, who also smoked it. They were using it to smoke, right? Mr. Gas happened to hear of it, as he is always inquiring about such things, hunted up the man and borrowed the pipe to take photographs and cast from it. He could not buy it. The man said his brother in law gave it to him, and as it was a curious thing, he wanted to keep it. We were, however, unfortunate or fortunate enough to break it. That spoiled it for him, and that was his chance to make some money out of it. He could have claimed any amount, and he would, as in duty bound, have raised it for him, but he was satisfied with $3 or $4. During the first week of April, this month, Reverend A.D. Blummer, another German Lutheran minister, now of Genesee, Illinois, having formerly resided in Louisa County, went down there in company with Mr. Gass to open a few mounds. Mr. Blummer being well acquainted there, they carefully explored 10 of them and found nothing but ashes and decayed bones in any except one. And that one was a layer of red, hard, burnt clay, about 5 feet across and 13 inches in thickness. At the center, which rested upon a bed of ashes, 1 foot in depth in the middle, the ashes resting upon the natural, undisturbed clay. In the ashes, near the bottom of the layer, they found a part of a broken, carved stone pipe, representing some bird, a very small, beautifully formed copper axe, and this last elephant pipe. All right, you guys see the image? You guys tell me, is that an elephant? Yes or no? To me, it definitely looks like an elephant, right? A type of elephant. I told you we had many types of elephants here in ancient America. They coming out of here, guys. Believe it. Believe that. All right, here's the diagram again. This pipe was first discovered by Mr. Bloomer and by him, at our earnest solicitation, turned over to the Academy. It will be seen from the above that the same gentleman was instrumental in bringing to light the 2 specimens constituting the present supply of elephant pipes. The remarkable archaeological instinct which has guided the finder of these pipes has led him to even more important discoveries. By the aid of his divining rod, he has succeeded in unearthing some of the most remarkable inscribed tablets, which have thus far rewarded the diligent search of the Mound explorer. You guys hear that? How they finding things with the divining rod? They go around with this metal rod and they finding things underground, even water, even wells, even underground rivers. It is not necessary to speak in detail of these here, or of the various theories to which they have given rise and support, including that of phonetic writing, further than to call attention to the fact that by a curious coincidence, one of the tablets contains, among a number of familiar animals, figures which suggest in a rude way the mastodon again, or elephant, which animal indeed some archaeologists have confidently asserted them to be. The resemblance they bear to that animal is, however, by no means as close as exhibited by the pipe carvings. They are therefore not reproduced here. Both figures differ from the pipes in having tails, both lack trunks and also tusks. And it says here, the elephant mound, right? They're going to show you an image. So this is the elephant mound we've shown before in Wisconsin. And this literally is an effigy of an animal, an entrenchment, embankment, hench, and the sign of an elephant. Annual report by the Bureau of American Ethnology, 1883. By far the most important of the animal mounds from the nature of the deductions it has given rise to is the so-called Elephant Mound of Wisconsin. By its discovery and description, the interesting question was raised as to the contemporaneous of the mound builder and the mastodon, an interest which is likely to be further enhanced by the more recent bringing to light in Iowa of two pipes carved in the semblance of the same animal, as well as a tablet showing two figures asserted by some archaeologists to have been intended for the same animal. This is just some examples. I've shown even more, guys. Although both the mound and pipes have been referred in turn to the peccary, the tapir, and the armadillo, it is safe to exclude these animals from consideration. We have tapirs here in Costa Rica, even though they have a little trunk, nothing like an elephant trunk, nothing like what they're showing us here in these pipes in the elephant mound. It is indeed perhaps more likely that the ancient inhabitants of Upper Mississippi Valley were automatically acquainted with the mastodon or elephant than with either of the above named animals, owing to their southern habitat. Referring to the possibility that the mastodon was known to the mound builders, it is impossible to fix with any degree of precision the time of his disappearance from among living animals. Mastodon bones have been exhumed from peat beds in this country at a depth which, so far as is proved by the rate of deposition, implies that the animal may have been alive within 500 years. The extinction of the mastodon, geologically speaking, was certainly a very recent event, and as an antiquity of upwards of 1,000 or more years has been assigned to some of the mounds, it is entirely within the possibilities that this animal was living at the time these were thrown up, granting even that the time of their erection has been overestimated. Right? You see that? It must be admitted, therefore, that there are no inherent absurdities in the belief that the mound builders were acquainted with the mastodon. Granting that they may have been acquainted with the animal, the question arises, what proof is there that they actually were? The answer to this question, made by certain archaeologists, is the Elephant Mound of Wisconsin. All right? And we're going to continue, all right, to this other topic. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It says here, Oneota, Hopewell, Sioux's Constellation Mound, Effigy, in Indiana. The only instance where a mound group was constructed to represent a constellation is in Tippecanoe County, Indiana. This area has been identified as the haunt of the Oneota Hopewell Sioux mound builders. It is impossible to determine exactly what the effigy is supposed to represent, but that the star clusters were being reproduced is unmistakable. Okay? And I got a little image here. Stories of Orion date as early as the 8th century BC. The story appears in the Odyssey where Odysseus sees him hunting in the underworld, right, in America. Remember where this is all taking place, guys. Remember everything we've been reading, everything we've been learning about these myths and these zodiacal interpretations, which are real geographies in America. So the underworld, or Amenti, literally a lot of the time for the ancients was where the sun sets, goes into the underworld, right? They thought it went into an underworld, or that's the west, right? America was to the west of so-called Greece and Africa and all that, right? So just like Odysseus sees him hunting in the underworld with a bronze club, a great slayer of animals, Johannes Hevelius drew the Orion constellation in Uranographia, his celestial catalog, in 1690. And here's a little drawing or depiction of that. This mound group is found in Battlefield, Indiana, and Tippecanoe County. The 6 stars in the cloak are easily seen. The 4 mounds may be those depicted in the middle of the hunter's back The largest mound may represent the Orion Nebula. Here's a little image of that. Okay. The largest mound of the group is still visible on a golf course. The 6 mounds that made up the cloak have been destroyed. The 4 linear mounds were discovered at the tree line to the right of the houses in the distance. The tree line. The 4 mounds that are depicted as horizontal to the cloak were found along this tree line that follows a small creek. All right, and that's from his other book that he got called The Nephilim Chronicles, a travel guide to the ancient ruins of the Ohio Valley, again from the same author. We might get into that book one day, but it just starts talking about space a lot. And now we move on to the next topic. It says here, Halley's Comet, the harbinger of doom for the Ohio mound builders. Harbinger of doom. So depicted in the mounds, So this is from Claremont County, Ohio, it says here. Hopewell Earthwork in Claremont County, Ohio, depicting what may be Halley's Comet and the impending doom that it was to bring to the Ohio Valley mound builders and the world. All right, you hear that? Look at that. That's the comet right there to the left, I believe. That's pretty amazing that they knew about this stuff, right? Because that takes a lot of years of observation, a lot of time that it has to come around, Halley's Comet, for them to realize it's a pattern, right? For anybody in ancient times to realize about comets and the celestial movements, right? What may have hastened the end of the mound building and geometric earthwork construction in the Ohio Valley is a piece of Halley's Comet slamming into the earth in AD 536. New studies suggest that there was a dramatic climate shift beginning this year that led to drought and famine around the world. This may have been the catalyst for the Justinian plague in AD 541-542, the Black Death in Europe and in South America, the decline of Teotihuacan in Mexico. It is also around this date that the end of the mound building era stopped in the Ohio Valley. And guys, that's where we're going to stop it today. I know it was a little shorter video, quick reading. Again, we're just trying to get through this book. It has a lot of different topics. We're going to continue on the next installment, on the next chapters. Again, just in case you want to see it again, this was the book, Mysteries of Ancient America, Uncovering the Forbidden by Fritz Zimmerman, all right? Pretty interesting stuff here. Again, I hope you enjoyed this little quick reading today. Want to make sure we don't make the videos too long, all of them, because we got a lot of people trying to catch up to my older videos and the recent ones. So that should give people more time to catch up. But I always want to put out some content, something, for everybody that's up to date. And again, this is the book we were reading today. Hope you enjoyed today's reading. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me out, to read these books. Appreciate all the support. Shout out to my Patreons. Again, check out the new part of the Chazar's video, part 33 on my Patreon page. I also did a vlog. Me and my wife had a little 26-year anniversary. I did a little blog, not that long. It's about 10 minutes long, for members only video, if you want to support me that way as well. And I also have a lot of, private videos on the members only video. I'll be doing a lot of that for the members, okay? But thank you once again for tuning in. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawaii.